Family is everything. Not necessarily blood, but it does help to share fluids. Me and my daddy, for example, are extremely close. He needs a wipe and I've got a left hand. However, even in my borderline Lannister-esque relationship, I draw the line at murder in any form. Not because I'm morally against it, mind you. Lord knows how many neighborhood cats went missing, but because I'm unbelievably terrified of prison. My biggest fear, literally since I was a kid, has always been the big jailhouse. Purely for the fact that I know I would get isolated. It might be easy for you to think it would be because of the old dropping of the soap, and how they would have to put me away in my own section for my own safety. But you'd be wrong. I would have the exact opposite problem where I'd have to be isolated for the other prisoners' safety, as I'd never stop letting that bar of soap slip out of my hand. Oopsie boys. It appears once again my soapy urea is glistening. It'd be a crying shame if one or three of you boys encroached. Oh shit. And that type of behavior will inevitably get me thrown away, as I know for a fact that that line will get so long that people will be wrapping around the prison just to catch a glimpse of my oiled and smooth rear end. And in case it isn't painfully obvious, me being stuck in isolation would not work out well. A born narcissist whose hobby is literally talking to the camera every other day because he enjoys the sound of his own voice that much. I think if someone like that were to exist, not naming any names, that person would not only crave socialization, but desperately need it at any cost. What I'm getting at is people like me who think they're God's gift to the earth and force their personality onto others through the online space don't fare well when they're locked away from other people. And on a related note, that is what we're talking about today. I'd like you to meet someone whose name I'm going to butcher multiple times throughout this video, as well as every single one of her family members' names. Mrs. Mahik Bukhari, or otherwise known as her handle Maybe Vlogs, a micro-influencer on the TikTok space. Her content could be described by some as a lifestyle vlogger, a dancer, and I don't know, an ambassador for Pakistani culture. Or she could be described by some, and specifically me, as a basic bitch. It's really funny because most people often assume that, you know, the basic stereotype only applies to white girls. Like you hear that term and all of a sudden your mind like conjures images of Ugg boots and ridiculously big silly hats, combined with a Taylor Swift CD blasting through your SUV while you go get Starbucks. But people often forget there's archetypes and stereotypes from every single culture, as well as race. And sometimes it's even different depending on the region. If you spent any time in the UK and I was to describe an English girl with Pakistani roots, it's just straight up Mahik. Moderately attractive. Her favorite hangout spot is a duplex entertainment center with either a bowling alley or a Nando's. Bonus points of a view cinema is there as well. Her goal in life is to be a nail technician, and she absolutely, for sure, without a shadow of a doubt, has a secret white boyfriend that she makes drop her off at the end of the street so her family doesn't see her with him. And I'm gonna say extra points at the sake of sounding different because I just literally said bonus points if that white boyfriend insists on meeting your family. But you as that basic girl keep putting it off. Some of you bitches are absolutely floored right now because you either know someone like that or you are that someone. Either way, you're basic. But what's not basic about our homegirl Mahik, who for transparency is very much my type for all of those reasons that I've just listed. White boys, it's the best thing in the world to date those types of girls. You never have to meet the family, it's incredible. Is the fact that alongside her mother, Mahik is a murderer. In the March of 2022, a plot was lurking in the back of their minds. And that plot was inevitably hatched against their victims. A Mr. Saqib Hassan and a Mr. Hasim, no fucking way.
And Hashim Ijazuddin.
Both 21 years old at the time. It was a simple meet and greet. The two men were lured into a Tesco parking lot, while the mother and daughter duo waited in the shadows, alongside an additional 5 men who were there to kill the 2 young lads. Correction! 4 lads and 1 woman! But the real question is why? Well, Mahik's mother is what some would describe as a harlot. Basically, Ansareen, who is Mahik's mother, was having a long-standing affair with Saqib, one of which her husband had absolutely zero idea about. Without sounding rude, I'm just gonna simply say, ugh, grim, and we'll leave it at that. And I get that Saqib or Saqib was what, 21 years old when he died, so this probably started when he was about 18, and it's tough down the old minds at that age. But god damn, dude, just Jesus. Regardless, as Saqib got a little bit older, either out of feeling guilty or an attempt at extortion, threatened to reveal the entire affair to Ansareen's husband. Why do I say either or? Well, it's because it hasn't actually been made clear as to why he was going to expose the affair. And you kind of have to think to yourself, after after years of diddling the monster from scary stories to tell in the dark, why did he all of a sudden gain a conscience and then randomly decide to come clean? So I'd have to reasonably assume, as a young man who's going into the partying scene, he would probably like a little bit of extra cash.
Upon editing, I was like, man, I sound like a real tool for saying the victim more than likely was trying to blackmail. But with all things, the correct move is to hit first and cry during, because our boy was in fact trying to get £3,000 sterling back off her for quote-unquote dates.
If you're curious, yes, Saqib is in fact a Muslim, or was rather raised in a Muslim household, but let's not kid ourselves, fellas. Some of the worst partiers I've known in my life have been devout Muslims. There's a reason there's that meme where it's like, oh, when your Muslim friend goes after Niash all weekend, we'll smoke and drink, but when it comes to having a Haribo sweet that contains a little bit of pig in it, he flat out refuses on religious grounds. This threat of her boy toy blowing up her spot was far too much for Ansarine to bear, and like any reasonable person, she confessed it all. But not to her husband, because absolutely God forbid that you confess your sins to the man that you caused them against, who at least deserves the decency of hearing about his betrayal. No, she told everything to her daughter, and honestly, that's way more brutal to me. Not only does Ansarine have the cheek to have an affair looking like a day-old cup of yogurt left in the sun, but she has the double cheek to conspire with her own daughter against her husband, the man who seeded her into life. A man who is way better looking than the mother, I might add, if you were interested in adding a little bit of salt to the wound. And if I was the father, I would be absolutely full to the brim with salt, considering dear old dad only found out about this entire plot the day of the trial and the day of their arrest. And speaking of arrest, let's take it back to the crime. The two men were lured into a Tesco parking lot, while the mother and daughter duo waited in the shadows, alongside an additional 5 men who were there to kill the 2 young lads. Correction! I like men. That was the plan, but it didn't go as smoothly as they would have wanted. As seen in the CCTV footage behind me, Saqib and his friend Hasim did in fact show up to the parking lot, specifically in the silver car with the green arrow, but only for a few bare seconds, presumably because Saqib had a bad feeling, and him and his pal both drive off. The car with the red arrow above it indicates the mother-daughter duo, whereas the blue indicates the 5 men that they brought along for the assault slash, murder. Correction! The mother-daughter duo is in both cars, and I don't know why I said I like men. I didn't mean that. As soon as it became apparent that Saqib dashed off, both cars quickly chased in pursuit. Saqib's car can be seen here pulling up to a red light with the men tailing him, directly behind them, in fact. Once the green light goes off, Saqib and his pal make it down this long stretch of road with the men following them directly behind, bumper to bumper. It is then captured that the car containing the Bukharis, which is the mother-daughter duo. Correction again, I would like to remind you the Bukharis are in both cars. I really don't know why I said that. I've been eating a lot of ham lately. Rushes through a red light in order to catch up to the gang, as well as the 2 men in flight. It was along this stretch of road that Saqib's phone started to ring, and it's none other than our beautiful, culturally significant Mahik. It's believed that Mahik was attempting to get Saqib to pull over, while simultaneously at the same time making threats towards the pair. Which, I don't know, dude. Typically, I don't normally f***ing stop when I'm being threatened and pursued in high speed. Especially not when the person I'm on the phone with, Mrs. Mahik, is playing a game of good cop, bad cop, and schizophrenic cop. What was the plan, Mahik? You're so convincing that you managed to get them to pull over? And he's just like, oh, okay, I guess because you put it that way, I'll go get my head stomped in. Hello? Saqib, please stop. We just want to talk. You're ramming into my car.
Pull over, I'll fucking kill you. I will murder you and bathe in your entrails. I will gut you like a fish and wear your teeth as a necklace.
Once it became apparent that Mahik's charming nature wasn't enough to win over her mother's lover in a high-speed car chase, the slamming began. The 5 men, as indicated by the red arrow, alongside the mother-daughter combo that's indicated by the blue arrow. Can ham even make you gay? I got a lot of thinking to do, but I just want to remind you again that there's four men, 1 woman, and the Bukharis are in separate cars at this time. Began to box Saqib in with his mate. If you're unfamiliar with the term, it's a common police tactic that they use, where 1 pursuit vehicle will get in front of the suspect, 1 will be behind, and then typically they'll be accompanied by a 3rd, which cuts them off from turning off right. Then typically the backline car that's on pursuit will nudge the back tires of the vehicle in order to get it off the road safely. In this case, however, the intention was not safety, but harm in fact. It was at this point that Saqib began to panic and ran rang 999, explaining to the operator over the line that he was being chased by men in ballies. For all of you non-street youths, bally is a road thing that stand for the balaclava. Yeah, Irie. Unfortunately, and rather sadly, while on the phone trying to get help, the pair were rammed off the road, where they went headfirst into a tree, killing them instantly. It was said by one of the investigators at the time that the car was going at such a high speed that when they hit the tree, the car almost split in half entirely and instantly caught fire. The 5 men, as well as the mother-daughter duo, then sped off. But this may come as a shock to you, they were unsurprisingly caught just hours later. When they were caught, arrested, and told what they were being charged with, the pair attempted to convince the cops that it was somehow an accident, as for some reason they didn't understand the concept that there's loads of CCTV cameras all along the highway, and the cops would easily be able to check the fact that you were trying to attempt a police maneuver on the person you were attempting to murder. The cops, of course, immediately threw the book at them and charged them both with murder, and likewise charged the other 5 men alongside them, a thing that the judge was also inclined to do as well. Mahik, for her role in the plot, has been jailed for life with a minimum sentence of 31 years and 8 months. Keep in mind she's 24 years old, alongside her mother Ansreen, who was sentenced to life with a minimum term of 26 years and 9 months. Likewise, the men who were involved in the plot all received various terms, although the 2 main ringleaders of the plot, i.e. the men who were there to assault and murder the 2, were jailed respectively for 26 years and the other one was jailed for 31 years. In the long short of it, it's very likely that Ansreen will either die in prison or come out a very old woman, as I believe she was 31 when she was arrested. And as for Mahik, she has destroyed her entire life covering up her mother's dirty affair. It goes without saying the most tragic aspect of this entire situation, and that's not me trying to be disrespectful by calling it that, I just don't know what else to refer it to, is 2 young men lost their lives due to the selfishness of an older woman and her young daughter who is just as responsible, if not more so. The most sickening part about this entire thing that I found out is Mahik still has fans out there rooting for her. I'm serious, she still has fan pages that edit her content for her and play an active role in trying to get her free, because in their belief she is just as much as a victim as the 2 young men who died, as that they directly believe Ansreen led her daughter astray. Horse shit. I'm happy to give someone a little bit of leeway when you turn 18, even though I do think you're an adult, but past the age of 20 years old, you are a grown person, and as such have your own autonomy. If you want to ride or die your parents, that's something that you want to do, but you're actively making that decision as a fully developed brain adult, meaning you're just as, if not as, more guilty as your mother. It's f***ing despicable that anybody would even have the cheek to try and defend her, and respectfully, I hope you fall onto the Eiffel Tower ass first. If I was gonna get all Netflix documentary on you guys just for 1 second, I could easily come up with some pretentious point by saying that this is what the cost of fame does to someone or perceived fame, makes them think they're above the law. But in reality, I just genuinely think that the pair are just fucking idiots, and those fucking idiots got what they deserved. Rest in peace, Haquib and Mr. Hassim. There's not much more I can say than I hope your families are at peace. And if you believe it or not, I hope Allah guide your path towards the light. I'll see you later, guys. Bye bye.